Brian Graham, and I'd like to welcome you to my home studio. I know that's a bit of a stretch. It's actually just a spare bedroom in my house, but it's where I keep my guitars and occasionally get a chance to break away and enjoy the hobby that I picked up back in high school. I've been fortunate over the past 10 years or so to be able to share my musical gifts as part of a worship band at Copperfield Church here in Houston, Texas. During that time, I've played with a lot of different guitar players, and I've experienced and observed different approaches to applying electric guitar in a worship setting. During this video series, I want to share some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. I think some of these things will help you quickly get up the learning curve, improve the quality of your contribution to the band, and ultimately make your participation in a worship band a very rewarding experience. This first module is going to deal with some basic concepts that you can begin applying immediately. I think you'll find some simple modifications to how you approach playing electric guitar can make a tremendous difference in the way your band sounds. I hope you enjoy the series and are ready to make some music. In this first module, we're going to talk about some basic ideas, some tips and tricks to help you start incorporating electric guitar into your praise and worship setting. And if you're already in a praise and worship setting, maybe give you some ideas on how to do some things a little bit differently and hopefully improve the quality of what you're doing. Over the years, I've experienced it. I've seen other guitar players come in. One of the common frustrations coming into a worship setting is I may not be familiar with the songs. I'm definitely not sure what I'm supposed to play. When I learned how to play guitar, I played songs that I listened to on the radio, I was very familiar with, they had a very distinctive part. Now I'm given a sheet of music with words and chords, and I get to be creative in making that what I want it to be. One of the keys to that is understanding what the worship pastor is trying to portray or express through that particular song. Is it a rocking, go-getter, make people dance type feel that they're looking for, or is it more of a reflective feel? Understanding those basic elements, and then understanding how the song is going to be created. Is it going to be driven by the piano? Is it going to be driven by an acoustic guitar? Or is the electric guitar going to drive the rhythm for the song and the tone for the song? Once you understand those basic elements and what the expectation is from the worship leader, then it's a clean slate for you to be creative. And what I want to show you here is some ideas on how to be creative in that process. Oftentimes, what I've seen is people resort to one of two things when they're presented with a new song. First, the tendency is to mirror the acoustic guitar or the other rhythm instruments in playing the song. So you just play the chords. Mirror the other rhythm instruments, the acoustic guitar. There's really no difference, no dynamics built in there. A lot of times people will say, well, maybe I'll try a different effect setting, I'll throw some distortion in there. But again, using the same rhythm pattern as the other rhythm instruments, just throwing in distortion only serves to make the song muddy and doesn't really add a creative layer. The other thing that people commonly do is they decide, well, I'm the lead guitar player, so I'm just going to noodle around on scales, and throughout the whole song, play that kind of thing over and over and over. Not quite sure where I'm going next, but I'm the lead guitar player, I'm supposed to be playing lead. What I want to show you is some basic ideas to how to break that cycle of just mirroring the acoustic guitar or the piano, and also the lure of playing leads throughout the entire song. So, how do you differentiate from a rhythm guitar or a piano part? This is what I want to call building dynamics into the song. Conceptually, you want to allow breathing room in the song. This may mean you play a little bit in an intro or a little bit through the first verse, and then come in a pre-chorus or a chorus, and then you really start playing a little bit more in the second verse, but you're not taking up the full measure of the song. You're allowing the other instruments to participate, leaving some breathing room for vocals to sing out. Coming to a realization that just because there is a place to fill doesn't mean you have to fill it. So it's that basic less is more type concept. One of the things that I do is I'll play on a verse, for example, every other chord instead of every chord in the chord progression. So, for example, if the song has a progression of C, A minor, G, A minor, G, F, what I might play is the C. Half as many chords. I'm just kind of strumming and letting it ring and letting the rhythm instruments carry the rhythm through that part. It gives me something to build on when I get to the pre-chorus and or the chorus of the song. The next thing you want to do is when you do get to that chorus, if it's a powerful chorus, bring the power. I like to think of it as, there's parts of songs that when they really kick in, it's like having a hug that draws you in. Bringing some power to the song that really tugs on people's hearts and draws the worshiper deeper. And so sometimes that's bringing in a heavier sound, maybe some distortion, maybe some power chords into the mix, but somehow bringing power into the song that's kind of been quiet up to that point. Then at the right time, after the chorus is over, being able to have some place to pull back to. Maybe a clean sound again, along with playing every other chord or some other ideas or techniques that we'll learn about. Anyway, so the first thing to think about is what are the dynamics of the song and how can I help that song move emotionally through the register that the worship leader has in mind. Some other concepts and ideas that help you differentiate between other rhythm instruments in your electric guitar is finding other places and other ways of playing the chords. So refer to this as chord voicings. So taking the shape of the F chord, if you move it up 2 frets, you get a G chord, 2 more frets, you get an A, 2 more frets, B, 1 fret gives you the C, 2 more frets from there, D, and an E. Okay, so just taking that shape and playing the only the strings that your fingers are holding down. So in this case, only 4 strings are being played as I move this chord shape up and down the neck. Okay, so this comes into play when you're working with a really rhythmic piece on the acoustic guitar. Maybe you'll want to play a high D and ring through that chord as it supplements what's going on in the rhythm section. Another shape that can be utilized there is the D shape. Here, as you move up, you'll only want to play the 3 strings that are being held down. So the D, you can go ahead and play 4 strings here on that chord. E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so just again taking those chord progressions on up the neck in the shape of the chord that you're used to. Now that D shape can be modified and you can get more strings and more notes into that chord just by doing a half bar over the top 4 strings, laying down your middle finger on the B string in the 3rd fret, and then 1 fret over on the D string using your ring finger. So now you have a 4-string chord that you can walk up the neck. There are some other things that you can do that are modifications on the same shape. So instead of playing a G like this in my standard D shape, I'll keep the same strings held down with the exception of I'll move back a couple of frets, and I can actually do my half bar. And if I ring that through all those 4 strings, I get a nice little color chord, and we'll talk more about color chords here in a little bit. But this is a modified D shape, so if I was to take this down here, it's like a D2. I come up, it's an E, F, G, okay. So learning the different positions that you can play these different chords will come in handy as you try to find other ways to play the same chords but get a different sound in the rhythm section. Alright, the next thing you can do with different chord shapes, obviously there's other bar chords that you can utilize, and oftentimes we use those as power chords, so I'll go ahead and change the setting here. Okay, so for power chords, some of the common bar chords that we use are based on the E shape, for example, and the A shape. For the E shape, play a standard E chord. As you move up, your finger replaces this end stock. And so you bar all 6 strings with your index finger and then play that E shape as you move up the neck. So you have an F, G, A, C. Okay, so using just an E shape and using your index finger to bar as you move up, you can have all the same chords with a little bit more power. Using the A shape, okay, and again using the concept of using your index finger as the root, you can lay your ring finger over those 3 chords, or those 3 strings in the A chord. So you have an A, B flat, C, D, E. So again, those are common chords that are used for power chords. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the modified D shapes. So with my index finger on the 5th fret and doing the modified D shape, I have the ability to create a power chord here that is, again, it's a G. It's the same as this chord here. Gives you a little bit higher end ring to it, so again, another way to add some power to the song and sound different than what the bass is doing or the acoustic guitar is doing. The next concept I want to talk about is playing partial chords. Where this comes into play is allowing you to place sustained notes that ring behind the chords, or build power in a power chord without having the muddy sound. So as opposed to the standard strumming that you might do on an acoustic guitar, as you play chords, just playing 2 or 3 notes, or 4 notes, to pick through the chord. And as you try these different chord voicings, what I'm going to do here, this is a G and using the F shape. I'm going to drop my pinky down and get a G sus or a C2. So all I did here is pick through the top 3 notes of my G chord. Drop my pinky straight down on this 5th fret. And so that gives me something that I can go back and forth with behind whatever the piano or other rhythm instruments are doing as they play back and forth between those chords or variations of those chords. Okay, so 2 to 3 strings strumming through a chord. In the D shape, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just take those two strings, my G string and the B string, and play that part of the D shape. Okay, so again, that gives you a real clean alternative to playing a full chord that supplements what's going on with the rest of the rhythm section. We talked briefly about different types of power chords. We talked about the E shape and the A shape and moving those up, and the modified D shape as different chord shapes that you can move across the neck to give you more power. Some of the things that you might do with bar chords is instead of playing a full 6-string bar chord, you hear that's kind of a muddy sound, you might choose to do 2 strings or 3 strings, the bass notes of that chord. So using this concept, I would, on this G chord, just either play the top 2 strings in that chord, or possibly, if I want to make it a little more full, I'll drop down and play the top 3 strings of that chord. Rarely when I'm playing with power and distortion do I play all 6 strings. Usually it's 2 or 3 strings, especially if I'm playing something rhythmic, such as quarter notes or eighth notes in a chorus. The other thing that's nice about this is it makes it real quick and easy to move from one position to another. A cousin to the bar chord there is the use of octaves. And so what we're doing with octaves is taking a root of a bar chord. In this case, I'm on the C note here on the A string, and I'm skipping the D string and going straight to the G string 2 frets up. So on the A string on the 3rd fret, on the G string on the 5th fret, and the D string I'm muting with the tip of my index finger. Okay, so I'm getting a clean sound on that C note. In that octave, I'm getting a clean sound, but I'm getting a muted sound on that middle string between those octaves. So it sounds something like this. What we're able to do there, again, is moving it through different chord patterns. Gets a new, kind of a sound that you hear in a lot of modern worship today. That's also a concept that a lot of times people will build a riff around. So they'll do a counter melody, not necessarily playing the exact same chord progression as the rest of the rhythm instruments, but playing more of a counter melody line in the song, using octaves as the foundation for that. So again, it's an alternative to single note melody lines or counter melody lines. The next concept I want to talk about is what I call color chords. This is using modifications of chords to get a little bit different sound. So a couple of ways to do that. Sometimes they sound good on a clean sound. Sometimes some of these chords that I'll show you sound really neat with a distorted sound. So first concept is using the open chords, open E. And instead of laying down the index finger to create the bar chord as we move up, do that. So now I'm holding holding down the E shape on those 3 strings and leaving everything else open and strumming the last 5 strings of the guitar, you get a nice color A chord, or an A2, move up 2 frets, and I get the B in there as well. So there's 2 other chords in that progression that are slightly different, slight modifications. So instead of playing in a straight E, when I get to the F sharp position, I move down. So now I have the A string and the D string on the 4th fret and the G string on the 2nd fret. Everything else open. So I go from the E to the F sharp minor to an A to a B, and just like on the F sharp minor, you can come up here to the C minor. So again, just a modification gives you the C minor. So those chords together and various combinations work well to give you a nice colorful blend and an alternative to your standard chords that you might play. I also use this concept sometimes where we may play a song where the acoustic guitar is driving and gets to an F sharp, and I'll play just a standard E shape behind that rhythm, just the open parts of it. It gives a nice ring behind the rhythm section. The other types of color chords I like to use are built around an A2 or a C2 or a D2 chord. The way I play that, you have your standard A. If you just lift your ring finger and just play the top 2 notes on that chord, and let the 3rd string ring open. So I have the open E and the open B string. On a C, I'll do my bar, and instead of a full bar in that A shape, I'll just bar the 3rd fret and have the D and G string depressed in the 5th fret. Moving that up. Same thing on a D and an E chord. Strum through those, you get a nice little ring that again offsets what's being played by the other instruments in the song. Add some distortion, and you get a nice sound too. So those simple things, playing every other chord in a verse, playing different sounds, clean, open sounds, picking through a chord, using different chord voicings, playing different effects. We'll talk more about effects in another session, but playing power chords when the song needs to have a little extra power, give it some crunch, and play some of these power chords. Using color chords to play something a little bit different that offsets and sings a little bit differently than the other instruments in the band. Those types of things can add tremendously to the dynamics of the songs that you're playing any given week. What I want to do is show you an example. I was given a song a few weeks ago, show up on a Sunday morning. It was a last minute addition. I'd never heard the song, hadn't really had time to practice the song. It was a learn as you go. What I did was I applied these same concepts to building the song, and ended up liking some of the things that came out, and so every other time that we've played it, instead of going back and playing it the way it was actually recorded by the original artist, I've tried to enhance some of the things that I was doing that first time I played it, and it incorporates a lot of these things that we've talked about in this session. So the song is called Glorious One by Steve Fee, and we'll show you a little bit of what I've chosen to do with that song. The chord progression is C, A minor, G, A minor, G, F. That's the intro to the song, and that's the chord progression through the verses. What I chose to do, instead of playing along as the acoustic guitar plays, chosen to do is play those chords in a different position on the neck. I've chosen to use a little bit of distortion and delay. I've also chosen to play every other chord, so I'm not playing, I'm playing the first and third chords in each of the progressions. I'm doing that through the intro of the song and on the turnarounds. During the first verse, I don't play anything. It gives me something to do in the pre-chorus and then when we get to the chorus. In the pre-chorus, I've chosen to do a little counter melody, real simple, playing on one string, just going to different notes on one string, and you'll see that as I get to it. For the chorus, I build in and play just power chords, playing through the C, the G, the A minor, a D, and there's also an F the second time through there. I just play those in standard power chords. I've done it several different ways. I've just played a power chord changes and some distortion here. So I've played those where I let it ring. I've also done it where I've played quarter notes. Okay, so that's pretty much what I do on the song. I'll play it now and give you a feel for what that sounds like put together with what the other instruments are doing. Okay, so I'm going to allow the acoustic to carry the first part of the intro. I'm going to come in, I'm going to play the same chords, but I'm going to pick through the chords. C, G, A minor, and F. I'm not going to play through the first verse. I'm going to let it breathe. The second verse, I'm going to come in and I'm going to play just the two notes around the D shape. I'm going to slide into them and do a few extra little things to build some character in the second verse. But I'm going to let it breathe in the first verse. I'm going to come in and play a little riff here in the bridge, in the pre-chorus. find some of those tips helpful. I plan to do some additional sessions, a little bit more on building riffs and adding guitar solos into the mix. Also a little bit about how to incorporate different effects. Again, hopefully you'll find this helpful, and I hope you have fun, and I encourage you to just go out there and be creative.